So the NBA offseason is in full swing. We've already got a lot of moves, a lot of trades, and we're going to go over some of the biggest ones so far and give them some letter grades.
Yeah, the NBA offseason is just special. Like no other offseason even comes close. And it's time to give our hot takes. Some of them I'm sure will age well. Some of them are going to age like garbage, but let's grade some of these moves.
Before we start talking about the NBA offseason, if you haven't already, make sure to leave this video a like, give us a subscribe, and hit that notification bell so you never miss out on one of our videos. So obviously we can't cover every move that's been made because we'd be here for a long time, longer than we'd like to be. Look, it's hot in Portland right now, okay? So we've picked some of the biggest player moves, and we'll give our letter grades on them. And we're gonna start with probably the biggest move of the NBA offseason so far, which was Paul George signing with the 76ers, leaving the Los Angeles Clippers. We covered this in last Friday's video, obviously from the Clippers perspective, but we've gotten some new information since that video came out. So apparently, according to Paul George himself, the Clippers' initial offer was 2 years, $60 million, which, boy, I'm honestly surprised he didn't just break off negotiations right there. That is fucking insulting.
Yeah, ever since Paul George came out with that podcast episode, it was just today as we're recording, repping that 76ers jersey, kind of giving everyone the behind the scenes. I didn't actually watch the podcast, to be honest, but I saw all the reports on Twitter, and I'm completely on his side from everything I've heard so far.
Yeah, I mean, at first, the Clippers weren't even willing to give him what they gave Kawhi. Again, I don't get this from the Clippers perspective because to me, Paul George is the more valuable player, but whatever. After the season was over, allegedly they were willing to give PG what they gave Kawhi, although PG wanted a no trade request. This is the only part where I think the Clippers actually made a good decision because no trade requests rarely end well for the team. So from the Clippers perspective, don't give him that. So then Paul George, he asked for the 4 years, $212 million, and we mentioned the Clippers video. It's just like, why not give it to him? You're f***ed either way. Just go for it with this roster.
I personally think Kawhi is like a little bit more valuable just because of his potential when he actually plays.
Okay,
but
fair enough.
Availability, yeah, you could give it to Paul George. I would still give him the money. I get it. Second apron, they were able to add guys like Derek Jones and Nick Batum and kind of fill out the roster a little bit more than they had with Paul George. So I don't think the Clippers necessarily made awful moves this offseason, but I agree. Just give him the money. But he got the money somewhere else. 4 years, $212 from the Philadelphia 76ers. They form a big three of Tyrese Maxey, PG, and Joel Embiid. On the surface, the big three fits very well together. You have your scoring guard in Tyrese Maxey, who can make plays, insanely quick in transition. Paul George, he can catch and shoot. He's your swingman. He can also play ISO. He can play defense as well. You can throw him on some of the guys for the Celtics, those wings. And then you have Embiid, your big. On paper, it looks very good. The problem is, where the hell is the depth? I was looking at who they have signed. There's not much on this team.
This is the problem with every big three in like the modern NBA is that you need to have a big three that is so overwhelmingly talented to make up for the fact that the rest of your roster is going to be barren to say the least. I mean, right now the Sixers have Kelly Oubre, Caleb Martin, Eric Gordon, and Andre Drummond. That's basically your rotation outside of your big three. So let's say you start Caleb Martin and I don't know, Kelly Oubre. So your bench is Eric Gordon, Andre Drummond, and Jared McCain, who you just drafted out of Duke.
Yikes.
It's not much.
Yeah, I liked this team a lot more when I was just thinking about the big three, and I'm like, they're gonna ball out together.
Well,
Paul
that's
George.
the problem. They get you. They suck you in with that. I mean, we just saw this with Phoenix. Now, to be fair, this big three fits together a lot better than Phoenix's did. Phoenix basically has three guys who all do the same thing. But again, Phoenix ran into the same problem. It's that your big three is not good enough to overcome the fact that the rest of the roster is just not that good.
So I'm gonna give it a B-. I like the fact that the 76ers are making the push. You know, since Embiid became like one of the best players in the league, he hasn't had a great supporting cast. Sure, he did back in the day with Jimmy, but that was before Embiid has taken this big leap. So I like how they're going for it. But yeah, looking at the supporting cast, fell for the Suns trap last year, not falling for it again. The highest I can give is a B-.
I'll be a little nicer. I'll give him a B because Paul George is still a very good player. And like I said, the big three fits together a lot better than Phoenix's did. It's just, I think it's been so apparent over the past 5 years that the strategy that's worked is to get a big two and to fill out the roster around those two. Because the second you commit to three stars rather than 2, it really handicaps your ability to make any kind of moves. And maybe the Sixers will figure it out in the rest of free agency and in the trade market, but I just don't think they have the depth to compete with the Celtics or the Knicks.
Now on to Klay Thompson, another shooting guard leaving California. I'm sure it was sad for a lot of Warriors fans. The Splash Brothers broken up, and even me thinking about that, I was like, damn.
You were thinking that as we were throwing a party
Yeah, exactly.
for the death of the dynasty.
Like, I mourned for half a second for them, and then I was just ecstatic. Finally, they're gone. I mean, Warriors fans had kind of become lukewarm on Klay anyways, because, I mean, remember that playing game when he shot 0 of 10? Like, he's had some stinkers recently, and there's been conflicting reports, kind of the negotiations of what the Warriors offered them. What it sounds like is it was a 2-year deal worth around 20 to 24 million per year, but Klay really wanted that long-term offer. That broke it down to the Lakers and Dallas. Lakers offered the 4-year 80 million, but they needed the Warriors to play ball with a sign-and trade. Mavericks offered 3 years 51. I mean, even me as a LeBron guy, and I would love to see like LeBron with Klay, Dallas was the better fit.
It absolutely was the better fit.
Yeah, if he wants to win another title, it's with Dallas and not with the Lakers. So completely get the move from Klay's perspective, and I like the move from Klay's perspective. Not exactly sure yet from Dallas' perspective.
Yeah, I'm kind of the same way. Look, he definitely solves an issue they had during the finals, which is the fact that they didn't have any shooters on their team. I mean, PJ Washington, Derek Jones, everyone, Tim Hardaway Jr. Ugh. Couldn't buy a basket from outside the three-point line. Klay is going to help with that. Even on his worst day, he's still an above-average three-point shooter that the defense has to pay attention to. My concern is on the defensive side of the ball. I mean, the Mavericks were a below-average defensive team all year. I know they picked it up a lot in the second half of the season and in the playoffs once they added, guys like Daniel Gafford and PJ Washington. But now if you start Kyrie, Klay, and Luka, that's 3 guys who aren't great defenders. I mean, Klay is not god-awful, but he's definitely not what he used to be. And Luka and Kyrie, outside of like a month-long period in the playoffs, are pretty much defensive liabilities. Couple that with the fact that they lost Derek Jones Jr. to the Clippers, who was arguably their best perimeter defender. Look, Klay boosts them on offense, for sure. But I think the Mavericks are really going to need him to play closer to his 2015 to 2019 form on defense, which, I mean, considering the guy is in his early 30s and he's had torn Achilles and a torn ACL in opposite legs, I mean, I just think it's asking a lot from him.
Yeah, I really don't like the fit on defense. I know they were very good on defense at the end of the season, like you mentioned. Derek Jones Jr., would he be able to replicate that season? Probably not, but he was very good for them. And if they start those 3, like, they're getting cooked.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just, there's no way those 3 are going to be able to defend. Like, I like Klay better off the bench with this team. I don't think that happens. I don't know who they'd start in place of him. I just don't love that fit on defense. Sure, the shooting, Klay's going to be open. That's going to work. For now, I'll give the grade a B. I mean, I'm not going to hate too much just because you're adding Klay. You're not losing a ton. Maybe it'll work. A veteran, championship experience, all that. But at the same time, I'm so worried about that defense.
Yeah, I'm also going to go a B. I do wonder maybe if the Mavericks try to stagger the minutes of Klay, Kyrie, and Luka, just because, yeah, the defense is going to be so open to being exposed. He definitely will provide shooting. We know Klay can do that. I do wonder, though, how he's going to fit in to this Mavericks system, because both Luka and Kyrie are pretty ball dominant, and he's coming from a system that was very, very free-flowing. Guys constantly in movement, guys constantly setting screens, getting shooters open. The Mavericks aren't exactly doing that. Maybe they'll try to embrace a little bit more of it with Klay on the team. It's going to be interesting to see how he plays outside that Golden State system. Now, even though Klay was technically traded, the Mikal Bridges trade to your Knicks was probably the biggest trade of the offseason, because good God almighty, the Knicks sent out a haul. They are basically committed to this current core of players. Plus, they bring back OG Anunoby, so they are really doubling down on getting versatile defensive wings. They now got Bridges, Anunoby, Josh Hart, and Dante DiVincenzo.
The Timberwolves, we said all season, everyone said all season, they were built to stop the Nuggets. This team is clearly built to stop the Celtics. I mean, I love it. I'm biased, but first of all, Villanova connection, that's coming back. That's going to be so overplayed and talked about during the season.
The Nova Knicks.
Yeah, we will be tired of it about 2 weeks into the season, but I'm still loving it. And then I just like how they have all these wings who, can shoot, can score, can get to the basket. Like, that's what you need in the modern NBA. We just saw it with the Celtics. Celtics. It's so valuable to have those guys. When the move first happened, I'm like, are they going to lose OG? Brought him back. Like OG and Mikal going up against that as perimeter guys, that's got to feel like hell. Brunson was incredible last year. You have Josh Hart, DiVincenzo, McBride, Julius Randle can still score, Mitchell Robinson. It's a very deep team. They're the second best team in the East, in my opinion. Sure, they gave up a ton, but I think they're kind of in the spot with the Timberwolves with the Rudy Gobert trade. I don't think the picks for the Timberwolves or the Knicks now are going to come back to bite them a ton. I don't think they're going anywhere anytime soon. I love this move. This Knicks team, best Knicks team I think we've ever watched.
Probably, yeah. I'm going to give the move... It's such a great fit. I have to give it an A- though, because I do feel like they gave up too much. I think 5 first-round picks, 6 if you want to count the pick swap in 28. I think it's too much for Bridges. I think it's a perfect fit. And obviously, if they win a title, or hell, honestly, even if they get to the NBA Finals, Knicks fans are probably going to say it was all worth it. But it's just a little bit too much to pay for Bridges. Still, great fit though, and I think it's going to work out for him.
I'm giving it an A. I love this team. I'm so excited to see them play the Celtics. It's going to be a very fun season for the Knicks this year. DeJounte Murray, the other major trade. Goddamn, there was a lot of like major trades this offseason. Trae Young, DeJounte Murray experiment didn't work. Only 2 seasons. That felt very quick. And the Pelicans didn't have to give up a ton to go get him. Dyson Daniels. I mean, that's really the only big piece you're losing there. Cody Zeller, I didn't even know he was still signed for them. That dude ain't gonna do shit.
I didn't know he was still in the league.
Yeah, I mean, I saw him a little bit last season, but okay, Larry Nance, decent role player off the bench. I like the move for the Pelicans. You know, it adds them another star. Maybe this can be the move that puts them kind of in that next tier of the Western Conference. Obviously, depends on Zion staying healthy. And more so, CJ is not a point guard.
Not at all.
DeJounte Murray can play that position. He hasn't been the past couple years, but he's played in the past. So as long as they're keeping CJ for the time being, he's a perfect fit next to CJ.
Totally agree. CJ is not a natural point guard at all. And honestly, over the past couple years, we've learned that DeJounte Murray is not really a natural 2 guard. DeJounte is going to be the primary point guard for the Pelicans. CJ can go back to his much more natural position as a 2 guard. Murray, Trey Murphy, and Herb Jones should be enough to cover for CJ on defense. I honestly think A. They didn't give up that much to get him. I don't want to quite go A+ because he's not like an amazing player. I just don't think they gave up that much to get him, and I think it's just a really good fit for the roster.
Yeah, I'll give it an A-. Only reason I would knock it down a bit is because this center situation, you got to get that figured out in the Western Conference. Unless they get some good bigs, they're going to get bodied in the playoffs. So that's the only reason I give it an A-. Now, DeMar DeRozan, we'll make this one quick because, I mean... I'm sorry, Kings fan. I feel for you guys. This feels like some move the Blazers would make.
Yeah,
like,
it does.
Yeah, we're getting a little bit better. Like, no.
It's so hard to get excited by this move.
It's just not going to do much. Like, I'm sorry. I don't like that lineup of De'Aaron Fox, Malik Monk, DeMar DeRozan, Keegan Murray, Sabonis. That's getting cooked on defense, sure on offense. There are going to be some shootouts, some fun games on League Pass. You're not a contender with this. You're really not moving much at all.
What do you give it a grade?
I'll give it a C-. I mean, is that too harsh? I'm sorry, Kings fans. Like I said, I feel for you guys. West Coast, small market. I don't really care for it. I really don't.
I was going to give it like a C+, B-. I guess I'm higher on it than you are. Again, I don't think it's going to do much for him, but again, they gave up basically nothing.
That's fair.
Harrison Barnes, Chris Duarte, a 2031 pick, and 2 second-round picks. I mean, yeah, it's not going to amount to much, but to me, it's a low-risk, medium-reward move. And for Sacramento, what else really could you do?
Yeah, I'll bump it up to a C. There you go. I'll be a bit more fair.
All right, now on to a really good signing. Chris Paul to the Spurs for 1 year, $11 million. Look, it's not going to result in a championship, despite what Des Bryant might want you to think. One of the biggest complaints about the Spurs last year was the fact that they just did not get Wemby the ball so many times when he was wide ass open. Chris Paul is going to get Wemby the ball when he's open, and that Chris Paul Wemby pick and roll, it's going to feed families. Like, to me, this is, again, it's not going to work for a championship, but this is A+. This is a phenomenal signing.
I mean, I'm hyped just for the highlights, the lobs, just the passes. They're going to be amazing. I do want people to remember Chris Paul didn't look good last year. Like, I think people are still doing a little bit of thinking about Chris Paul 2 years ago, but there's no risk to this move. It's literally 1 year. Who cares? It's just going to be fun to see. He can teach some of the young guys, not just Wemby, but some of the younger guards they have. So I like the move. I'm going to give it an A. Only reason I'm not giving it an A+ is because, like I said, people are forgetting a little bit that Chris Paul is pretty washed at this point, but it's going to be very fun.
That's the video, guys. What grades would you give the biggest moves of the NBA offseason? I'd love to hear what you have to say in the comments down below. If you enjoyed the video, consider leaving it a like, as it really does help us out. And while you're here, why not check out some of our other videos as well? And don't forget to subscribe to Synthetic Sports.